Hey everyone, Vince with Boomer Electronics here. Hope you're all having a nice day. Today I'm going to be working on a Sega Nomad that I got in. This Sega Nomad is freezing and does not have audio output. So that'd be interesting, so stick around and we'll see how it goes. If you're interested in getting a Sega Nomad repair, I'll have a link in the description and the pinned comment to my website where you can check that out. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. I'm working on a Sega Nomad today that has some interesting symptoms, so I'll go ahead and show you what it's doing. I have a hockey game here. I'll show you what it's doing with this cartridge. So I'll power it on. It's pretty consistent about loading this TMSS screen here. And this time it actually proceeded to this screen. So once it gets to the title screen here, the game freezes. It's also interesting to note it freezes right at the point we're supposed to be getting audio output. So that it does this pretty consistently on this game. Sometimes it'll freeze right after the TMSS screen, but that's what it's doing with this hockey game. I also have a virtual racing cartridge here. It's acting a bit differently with this one. So yeah, it loads up the TMSS screen. Okay, so it booted this one first try too. As you may or may not hear, there's no audio playing. That's been a very consistent as well. I have not gotten this to play any audio whatsoever. I'm just trying to make sure the audio is up all the way down here, and it is. So this one though, it will actually load into and play the game if you load into a race here. So I'm just going to hold down B, show the game's working. Yeah, I'm driving. Although the behavior isn't consistent either with it loading. So let's see if I can just get another example here on camera. No, this time it is actually loading again. Okay, this time it crashed right after the TMSS screen. So that's kind of what it's doing with this one. It will either crash right after TMSS or it will go into the game and play but have no audio. Same thing with, similar with the hockey, except the hockey never makes it past the title screen. That's as far as it'll make it, then it'll crash there. So I'm putting the hockey game in again. Yeah, so this time it crashed right after the TMSS screen. So yeah, that's what this Nomad's doing. I'm gonna go ahead and get into it and see what I find. Well, it didn't take very long to find an issue. I just cracked this open and looked in the audio area, and we have some very interesting looking things, to say the least. This capacitor isn't soldered down to the board. Really, I'm not sure what went on here. I'm not sure if someone's been into this, or I'm kind of thinking someone's in this. I don't know. This doesn't really look like capacitor leakage from what I can tell. In any case, I'm gonna have to, yeah, okay, there's like someone was touching this with their soldering iron here. Yeah, if you like look here, there's a cold solder joint here. Okay, so I'm going to have to put this under my microscope and clean up around here. So I'll go ahead and do that, and we'll see how it goes. this area is looking much better now. Got the pads repaired for this capacitor, so it should be in the circuit now. So we'll go ahead and test it out real quick here. Should be simple enough to test. Alright, so let's go ahead and try the hockey game first. Okay, let's see if it crashes and if we get sound. Nope, still crashed. Interesting. Crashed when it's supposed to start playing sound. Let's see if we have any difference with Virtua Racing, because this game was actually playing sometimes. So I'm curious if we have sound back now that capacitor's in place. It doesn't look like we have sound. Interesting. So cleaning up that area of the board does not appear to have made much of a difference. I'll do some more testing off camera, look around a bit more, and give you an update when I find something. Yeah, so I've been checking this out a bit. I'm kind of focusing my attention on the audio amplifier IC right here. You can see it's a Sega 315-5684 is the part number. So I hooked up to my oscilloscope right now. Let's see. Yeah, this isn't really going to be doable with one hand, but I am getting 5 volts on pin. Yeah, 5 volts is on pin 32 like it should be. So I've just been going around checking the different inputs on this chip. From what I can tell, it looks like we're getting good input signals for the audio. So here's an example. If I can do this, pin 14 should be one of the FM inputs. And then yeah, here's what we're getting on the scope over there. So I'm kind of thinking this might have already been done based on the work that I saw done on this, but I'm thinking I'm going to try to replace this IC with a different one. So this IC is actually the same one that's in the Model 2 Genesis, and I have a Model 2 Genesis, so I'm going to go ahead and swap those ICs around and see if that makes any difference. Yeah, so that's kind of the next step. I opened up my Genesis and couldn't find that chip. Apparently this is a VA 1.8 revision motherboard, and that chip's only in the VA2s and VA3s. So yeah, I can't get that chip out of there. However, I knew my brother had a few of these Model 2 Genesises, so I asked him and he opened them up and confirmed that he does have a VA3 model. So I'm gonna go grab that from him tomorrow, and then I'll swap that chip and pick this back up. So I borrowed my brother's Genesis like I mentioned. I've already swapped these two chips on here, so I'm gonna do some testing now. Kind of doubtful this is gonna fix the main issue of it crashing, but we'll see. So yeah, just get the cartridge in, plug it in here, hope for the best. Okay. Yeah, it looks like it is still crashing. I'm going to turn this on and off and see if I can get the game to boot, because I know this game should eventually boot. And then I want to see if I hear any audio now that that chip's swapped out. So I'll be right back. It wasn't getting this game to boot on the Nomad, so I'm just going to try it out on this Genesis. Since this has the suspected faulty chip on it, if we get audio out of here, that's basically going to confirm that this chip was fine. So we're just going to test that.
And yeah, we have audio. Okay, so that tells us there was nothing wrong with that chip on the Nomad, so we're gonna have to look elsewhere. Okay, I want to give a quick update on some things that I've tried off camera. Also, just in case you're yelling at your screen of something I should try, this might ease your mind a bit. So yeah, going through, just looking over all the connections. These solder joints on this ribbon cable that comes from the cartridge board over to the board with the screen. These solder joints here looked pretty rough, so I redid all those. That made no change. A while ago, I didn't mention this before, but I did do this. So I went through all the capacitors with my ESR meter, and yeah, I checked the ESR readings, and that they measured good enough. The capacitor shouldn't be causing this issue of it crashing all the time like it is. These two through-hole caps, this 820 microfarad one was measuring about 710 microfarads in my component tester, which is technically in spec, but it was a bit low, so I did put a new cap in there. This one I changed out just because why not at that point. But yeah, that hasn't made any improvement or anything like that. And in fact, the longer I work on this, it seems like it's just getting worse and worse. Now, I haven't been able to get it to boot any games at all, and it doesn't consistently boot the TMSS screen anymore. So let me just turn it on like this. Okay, so it did boot the TMSS screen this time. Didn't boot the game. So turn it off, turn it on, and yeah, didn't even boot the TMSS screen this time. So whatever is failing on here seems to be getting progressively worse as I work on this. I mean, I've looked over the board pretty thoroughly. I don't see anything obvious at this point, so I'm kind of in the I think my next step is just start swapping chips that seem like they could be causing this issue. My first suspect is the work RAM chips. So this has two of them. There's the main SRAM and then the Z80 SRAM. I don't think the problem would be the video SRAM because this was booting games and I have not seen any graphical glitches at any point. So yeah, I'm probably going to start with this IC2. I should be able to find this on a Model 2 Genesis. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to swap that out and see if we have any change. If not, I'm probably going to swap out this Z80 SRAM, see if there's any change, and we'll take it from there. I got that SRAM chip swapped out between these two. So there's that one on the Nomad. Here's the one on the Genesis. So we're gonna go ahead and do a little bit of testing here. Let me actually come back and put this back together a little more. Well, this should be good enough for testing, so let's see what happens. Lacing their TMSS screen there. It looks like it crashed after the TMSS. It was hard to see, but I saw it. Okay, now I'm not seeing the TMSS again. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and go over to the Genesis now and see if that's working with the suspected bad chip in it. Alright, powering on the Genesis now. And yeah, it looks like that SRAM chip is not the issue. So next I'm going to go ahead and swap out that Z80 SRAM chip and hope for the best. Got the Z80 SRAM swapped out. Should be reassembled enough to test this out here. We'll see if there is any change. Light ATMSS screen. Nothing. Yep. So it looks like no change. Let me hook up the Genesis and make sure it's still working. Got the Genesis hooked up, powered on. And yeah, it's still working fine. Okay, so I'm gonna have to probably poke around with my oscilloscope and look for any anomalies, I guess. But yeah, that's where we're at. So I'm on pin 23 on the Z80 here. That's the reset pin, so I'm going to power this on, hooked up to my oscilloscope over there. Okay, got the TMSS screen. And that's where it crashed, and when it crashes, the reset gets stuck high. And that's obviously not supposed to happen. We're not supposed to be stuck in reset. I've been doing a bit more research. The Z80 processor here is apparently responsible for sound processing. Since this thing, when it was booting, never had any audio, I'm suspecting that the issue might be this right here. And fortunately, on my other Genesis, it looks like it has the exact same chip and package. So I believe the next step is going to be to swap out the Z80, since I already swapped out its RAM and that made no change. So I'm hopeful this might get the Nomad working. I'll swap these out and see what happens. Swapped out the Z80s. I'm going to go ahead, power this on, and see what happens. Okay, TMSS screen. Oh. I don't have the speaker plugged in, but it looks like it booted this time. Interesting. Okay, so let me go ahead and plug this speaker in off camera, then I'll boot this again and see if we're getting sound. Nomad's a bit more reassembled now. Have the speaker attached, so I'm going to see if we actually get sound working now. Okay. Yep, I hear sound. It's very faint though. Okay, so that's probably going to be another issue, is trying to figure out why the audio is faint. I'm plugging in some headphones. I want to hear how it sounds through my headphones here. Okay, so the right channel is very loud right now. The left channel is very soft. Okay, so we have some kind of issue with the left channel being very quiet, but the main problem's solved. It looks like it's actually booting games now and playing audio, so the Z80 chip on that was faulty. Just for laughs, may as well boot up the Genesis with what should be the confirmed faulty Z80 on it and see if we're getting the same behavior we're getting on the Nomad, so I'll go ahead and set that up. Here I got the Genesis set up. Let's see what it does now. Oh, that's interesting. So the issue does not appear to have been the Z80 after all. It must be something else in that area that got perturbed when I was messing with the Z80. Let's turn this on again. Huh. Well, that's a little confusing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think of what to do next. It's That's interesting. Well, I guess the next thing I'm going to do is try to figure out why the audio is low on the Nomad. I'll worry about the Z80 business a little later. I was looking into this low audio issue, and what I noticed was, so pin 30 here is the right channel headphone, and this pin connects directly to the middle pin of the volume knob here. And I was getting a reading from here to here in the mega ohms when I was checking with my multimeter. So it looks like this was just a flaky connection here, so I just resoldered this volume knob down here. It seems like the sound's working better now. That seems like that was the only issue. So I'll go ahead and throw this back together real quick and just show it fully working. Okay, booting up the game now. Audio's up all the way. Yeah, definitely quite a bit louder than it was previously. I've tested the headphones as well. So I'm just plugging those in. So here's the right channel, which was fine before. Here's the left channel. So those are both nice and loud now. So yeah, this thing looks like it's fully working now. I'm guessing that the issue with the Z80s, either there was a bad connection on the chip, or just heating it up with the other one has gotten it temporarily to work again. Either way, I'm definitely going to keep the Z80 from the Genesis and the Nomad here, because I don't trust that other Z80 at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if that Genesis just stops working at some point and starts having similar issues to what this Nomad was having. All appears to be working quite well now. Go ahead and test that a bit more off camera, make sure everything looks good, then I'll get it up for sale and hopefully sold. So that's gonna just about do it for this video. Reflecting back on the repair itself, with the knowledge I have now, a few of the steps I took towards the beginning I wouldn't do if I ran into another Nomad with a similar issue of freezing and having no sound like this one had. If I ran into another one, I would start by swapping the Z80S RAM. If that didn't fix the problem like it did in this case, then I'd go ahead and swap the Z80, the audio processor itself, and that's what fixed this one. Although, like you should have seen in the video, I'm not exactly sure if the Z80 was faulty or if there's just perhaps a cold solder joint. I will be keeping an eye on that Genesis where I have that Z80 installed, and I will mention in the description and pin comment if I run into issues with that Genesis in the relatively near future. So with all that said, hope you learned something, hope this is helpful for you. If you have a Nomad that you want repaired, check out the description or the pinned comment for a link to my website and I'll get you set up. So have a good rest of your day.